So tell us your name and title and how you came to be part of working with Met Transit.
My name is Bill Troe, and I am a principal with SRF Consulting Group. And we've been hired by Met Transit to complete what they're calling is a comprehensive operations analysis for the fixed route system in Waterloo and Cedar Falls.
At this point, how do you know any of the details as far as how many buses are running or how many riders we're serving? I mean, what are some of the data points that you guys are considering?
So right now there are 10 routes that operate, and the key element or the center of this study is essentially looking at each of those routes, which we kind of refer to them as loop routes that when you leave downtown, you're probably not on the same street as you are when you return to downtown on the same route. And one of the key elements that we've been working with Met on is refining and revising those routes so that they're more what we call now bi-directional. So if you're going out on one path, you're coming back on one path, and those routes are generally more efficient and more effective. And that is the primary thing that we've been working on with Met over the last months.
What are the trends you're seeing nationwide? Are communities of our size going to, more efficiency with public transportation? And if so, how is that a benefit to riders?
Yeah, I think that when you're looking at communities the size of Waterloo, that their level of resource that they really have had historically for transit has been pretty limited. And that results in that idea of more loop routes, because when you're looking at a loop route, you're kind of saying, well, we have a little bit of money and we want to get a lot of coverage. And with that loop route, you can get more coverage, but they're less efficient because somebody is either going to have a very long ride or they're going to have a very short ride, and depending on their destination. So I think a lot of the work that we've been doing over the last, say, 10 or 12 years has been helping a lot of communities reduce the amount of loopiness that they have in their system.
No, I appreciate you sharing that. And I think everybody would support making things more user-friendly. And this makes sense that you would want to do it with the public input, which brings us to what I wanted to be sure and share, that there is a public information meeting. It's coming up, and it's great that you guys are really seeking input from the very people that would be impacted by any potential ridership changes. It's happening at the Downtown Central Transfer Center at 416 Sycamore Street, coming up on February 27th. And you're doing two meetings, one from 11 to 1 and a second one from 3 to 6. And we have Bill's contact information on this flyer that I'm going to share in the comments section of this interview. Why should somebody make time to attend one of these meetings? How much will this feedback be factored into any potential changes for upcoming service tweaks?
So I think everybody that uses transit in Waterloo should attend the public meeting. And the positive thing about being at the transit center is we'll make it relatively convenient for those folks that are transit users to actually attend the meeting. So at that meeting, we will have maps showing the existing route, say existing Route 1, proposed Route 1, and we can have a conversation with each of the individuals about how the proposed change is going to impact their trip. And hopefully what we end up with is, for the most part, trips are better for people. And that their input will be critical as Met works towards implementation of the concepts. That Met is required to take public input at this point. And it's not too late. I mean, we can still make some changes to the routes, and Met will continue to make changes to the routes as they kind of work through and truth the information that is in the maps. That they'll spend some time pulling a bus out and driving those routes, simulating stops along the way to make sure that they can meet all of the time points that they have established so that they can meet all back up in downtown and continue to efficiently pulse in and out of downtown. So they have a lot of the detail work to still do. And I think that detail work is where the input that we will receive next week will be still critically important.
Is Waterloo being progressive or smart in its push to make these changes, or are we kind of behind the curve on doing loop ridership? Can you give us a snapshot of sort of where we fall on the spectrum of communities you guys work with?
Well, I mean, I think being smart, yeah. I think that the service that's provided out there today is appropriate for the community. The concept that has been developed will be more efficient. Where Waterloo fits kind of in that, well, when have other people or other locations converted a little bit from loop systems to more bi-directional? That one's pretty hard to say.
When you look at the future of public transportation, especially in rural communities in the Midwest, where you're not going to have trains, subway systems, and you're not going to have a lot of perhaps even Ubers or rider sharing services, what will it look like in the coming years? I mean, how will we make this work so that individuals that are really reliant on that transportation will be able to count on it?
Well, I think the changes that are being discussed in the public meetings are exactly what's going to help the system be sustainable into the future. The idea of why people use transit, part of it is because it's relatively convenient. And the idea of using bidirectional routes to make it more efficient than it is today is going to improve the convenience of using the service. And that, I think, is one of the things that communities of all sizes need to be focusing on is can we make service more convenient? Because it is competing with, particularly in the Midwest, that transit is competing with people driving. That
Absolutely.
in a lot of the large metropolitan areas where that those folks that are working downtown are paying a pretty good price for parking each month in downtown. The price that you're paying in Waterloo is a lot less. That also, when you're in a larger metropolitan area and people are driving to work, their commute time and their aggravation during their commute time is appreciably greater than we're experiencing in Waterloo. And those two things, with parking cost, with congestion, and the hassle of driving or commuting, are two things that in large metro areas that drive the convenience of using transit. And so, we don't necessarily have those two things to the same extent in Waterloo. So we need to make sure that our system is as efficient as possible.
Absolutely. You make great points. Having lived in other parts of the country, that's a plus here, not having traffic, but that doesn't always drive people to use, the public transit as you described. So the good news, the headline is for individuals that are dependent on the busing and the public ridership, you are looking to partner with Med and will be making it more efficient, which means less time for them on the bus because of eliminating, as you described, the looping where they're going to have to sort of stop at everybody else's stop when this would be redesigned to be more direct for them from point A to point B. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. And well, I guess that's fair to say with the more direct from point A to point B, but the trips are more consistent. As depending on where you live today, that if you're on the beginning of the loop and you want to be going back downtown, you may have to drive, all the way around the path. And right now you'll have the ability to just, I'm going to walk to the other side of the street and get the bus as it's coming back into town. So that, I think, is one of the key benefits of the concept that it's being proposed.
I love that. Well, thank you so much, Bill Troe with SRF Consulting, for taking time to share with our audience. We appreciate what you guys are doing to improve the public transit system here in Waterloo. That public meeting, again, two options for you coming up at the Downtown Central Transfer Center, 416 Sycamore Street, right here in downtown Waterloo. February 27th, the first meeting 11 to 1, followed by a second meeting from 3 in the afternoon until 6. So we thank you for engaging with the public. We hope people will show up, and if they can't make it to the meeting, can they email you their input or feedback if we provide the email address you shared?
Yes, you can. Or
Absolutely.
yes, I will, I guess.
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
I appreciate that. No, I thank you for being flexible. For some people that might say, well, there wasn't a time that I could take the bus to get to the meeting, right? And that's what Bill and crew are here to make sure we'll be more efficient in the future. So we appreciate your time, and thanks so much for giving us all this information.
If I could add one thing, that
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
the displays that we're going to have at the public meeting are on the Intercog website. So
Okay,
if you
great.
can't make the meeting, you can pull up the displays and see exactly what we'll be talking from at each of the public meetings, and then people can provide questions through email if you want to provide that.
That sounds great. We can add that link in the comment section under this interview as well. So we will do
Okay.
that. Thank
Cool.
you so much, Bill.
Yep. Take it easy. Thank you.